Good evening, Charles. How are you?
Dan. I am spectacular. How are you doing?
I am well. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. We are recording on this blessed day of November 20th, 2023, 46 years from my birth. Happy birthday to Joel McHale and President Joe Biden, who I share a birthday with. It's an important day because of mostly them, but also me, a smidge.
A little bit, yeah.
So yeah, it's been a good day. I did not take the day off of work because I have a job that I don't need to just randomly take a vacation day for my birthday from, because I enjoy my job. I got to hang out with some people with my client's office in Jacksonville. I don't travel to Jacksonville as much as I travel to St. Petersburg, so it's nice to see them. And I did decide last week, and I wanted to talk to you about this, get your take on it. Every year I kind of decide, do I want to leave on the About Me part of Facebook, do I want to leave my birthday public or make it private? And here's the thing. I'm not somebody who sees that it's somebody's birthday and feels like I have to jump on their wall and say happy birthday. I do it sometimes, but most of the time I do not. I just kind of ignore it.
Yep.
And I'm okay with people not commenting on mine either. Yep. And so this year I decided I'm not going to leave it open. I'm going to make it private. And I want to say coincidentally, but it's not a coincidence at all. Today I heard from the people wishing me a happy birthday. They're the exact people that I would call or send a text to tell them happy birthday.
Yeah, well, so what's the question?
There's no question. I just found it interesting that I think there's
quality over quantity.
I think there are some people that I'm happy about the idea that this is not counting down still.
All right, you got a couple extra bonus birthday
I did.
minutes out of that.
Yes,
yeah,
I did. Sorry, the intro timer was not moving. I feel like a common mistake that some people make is to have one level of effort that they put forth to others and expect a higher level of effort. And if they don't get it, they get disappointed.
So you're assuming life is fair then? Is that what that's what these people are thinking?
Some people work under that. And
yeah.
In my current situation, they may have been disappointed from not hearing from more people. But with the Facebook birthdays, it's like eating cotton candy.
It's meaningless.
It's eating cotton candy as compared to eating a steak.
Yeah.
When somebody knows that it's your birthday, either because they have a reminder set or because they just remember it's your birthday and they pick up their phone and text you or give you a call and say happy birthday.
Right.
That means something.
Exactly. That's my move.
Is compelling me to tell people that give them a happy birthday message.
Yeah.
Then it's not filling.
Yeah. They want you to use the platform, of course. Sure.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I mean, most of the time I will send a text or give a call for somebody's birthday that I care about. I feel like the Facebook stuff is it just gets, everybody's throwing their, happy birthday.
Right. We've ritualized it where it doesn't mean anything.
And it's basically already automated. Like you don't even have to type it out anymore, and it's like,
yeah. So I've kind of opted out of that system, and I think I'm going to keep it that way for my following birthdays, where I'm not going to be the one to make it a deal. Yeah. And I know even talking about it almost can sound like I'm testing people. I am totally not testing people. So the people who didn't reach out to me, it's like, I don't care. I probably didn't reach out to them on their birthday. In fact, I'm sure I didn't. And that's okay with me. So I'm in an equilibrium here where when it comes to birthday greetings, I'm giving and getting at the same level. And that is A-okay with me. I like that.
Sounds good, sir.
So yeah, I would encourage people to consider jumping off that carousel, because I think it's, if you can take it. Now, if you get a lot out of strangers and associates and Facebook friends giving you your happy birthday and it's going to bum you out if you don't get that, then don't change anything. But if it's more of it's like, okay, well, once a year they're going to tell me happy birthday, so now I have to hand out happy birthdays all year myself.
I'll be honest with you.
I felt better checking out of that.
I started to feel that way.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, they wished me a happy birthday, and
now
it rings a bell when something comes up, and I'm like, yeah, I feel obligated.
And for the people that wish you happy birthday, do you have to comment on their birthday wish? Do you like it? Do you love it? How are you expected to react to it when they leave you a happy birthday message on your wall for your birthday?
So I have a simple rule: if you're a friend, you got to like; if you're family, you got to love. That's it.
Yeah, I know.
That's it.
I know other people who have rules like that as well, and I
try and keep it simple.
I can see the simplicity in that. Yeah, but I would rather not have my birthday available and not get any and not have to respond to them.
Whatever floats your boat, man.
I mean, we do get decision fatigue.
Yeah,
the more decisions you make in a day, the less likely the late night decisions are going to be as good as they would have been otherwise.
Oh, I'm convinced my decision fatigue is why I eat like crap at night. You know,
I'm the same way.
You know,
yeah, I really need to be at home, at a friend's house, at a hotel room. Once time, if I'm driving around in my car, the odds of me stopping and popping in someplace to get something I shouldn't be getting, it goes way, way up.
So my line is, sorry I didn't wish you happy birthday, but I need to be able to control my eating at night. So
yeah, I mean, it's a clear A to B. I mean, who would understand, right? I mean, come on. Okay, so yes, the birthday was good. I worked today, and then I left work, and I went and registered or applied to register my new car that I bought for myself.
Happy birthday to you!
Yes, it's the
timing worked out actually really well as your own little birthday gift.
Quite well.
Yeah,
the day I paid my title registration and all this was on my birthday. So
wow.
Yeah, that means I will get a full 365 days out of the registration before I have to do it next year.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm very happy that I found a car that I've been excited about. I looked it up. GoldenEye, the first Pierce Brosnan James Bond film. Not many people would call it the best, but I might call it my personal favorite. Came out a week before my 18th birthday. In 1995.
Wow, sometimes things just line up for you.
Yeah, it came out 28 years ago. Was when it was released, and I had seen the ads and read some of the press about the fact that Bond was switching from an Aston Martin to a BMW. Back then, it was a big deal because he always drove Aston Martins. But Aston Martin, either they didn't have some models that they wanted to promote, or they didn't want to fork over the money to MGM for the promotional consideration, as they call it. And so they switched to BMW for 3 films. GoldenEye, Tomorrow Never Dies, and The World Is Not Enough.
Okay.
And the first one they switched to was an Atlantic Blue Z3 Roadster with tan interior and a 1.9 liter 4-cylinder engine. And that is now sitting in your garage because I found one and I bought it.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I'm excited. And yeah, you care to comment a little bit about how that kind of came to be with
Yes,
because I feel like this is kind of an interesting story.
We had talked on the podcast about the idea that the amount of joy I get out of driving a car I consider to be fun is pretty high. And the amount of joy I get on going on solo trips, little vacations, is pretty high too. But one is certainly more durable than the other. They're still experience based. It's not like, oh, I've got this fancy, expensive car and the status gives me something, because it's not, it's kind of fancy, but it's not expensive by any means. Right. And so, you convinced me to, or not convinced me, but you certainly played a part in helping me align my priorities and realize, okay, say no to yourself for a few of these trips. You're not looking at a super expensive car, and just say no a couple of times, and you'll be able to be ready to buy this.
Because you'd been talking about this car for a long time, and I feel like you were making and I don't want to say you were making excuses, but I feel like you were really excited about it, and then you would do things that were in direct conflict with with that excitement and that desire that you were just telling me about.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, my relationship to dopamine is not what many medical experts or mental health experts would call healthy. I get a rush out of things like retail therapy, booking plane tickets, flying to new cities, going to new zoos to see new animals. I get a lot out of those experiences, more than, buying something, more than putting money in savings, certainly, and even more than, buying a fancy new fill in the blank. Like,
Sure.
Buying a plane ticket is the most fun thing for me to buy, except for perhaps 2-seater roadsters, German roadsters. So, so I just basically said no to 2 trips. I was going to go to Boston late fall, and well, I guess this is still late fall, and I was going to go to New York for my birthday, and I decided to cancel both of those trips and to make myself a little, I got a whiteboard and made myself one of those little fundraising thermometers that people use, where as you save more money for the goal, you fill it in with some red ink up the top.
Yep.
And yeah, really the day that I decided to do that, and I put it up on my wall and I colored in the amount of money that I already had, which was substantially on the way, then things just fell into place and I was able to come up with the remainder of the money. I was able to find a car that checked all of the boxes, and it wasn't in Seattle, it was in Sarasota. And
yeah, because you didn't mention that, but all the other, like, as
all
you
the
were
solid prospects were well out of state.
When you were excited about the car and looking at the, and looking for them, they were not just out of state; they were on the other side of the country.
Yeah, there were 2 in Seattle. There was 1 in Tucson. The closest one that looked pretty good was in North Carolina, but it was a green one, which I've already owned a green one, and so I didn't. I don't dislike the dark green ones. I think they look good, but I already had one. And so the color that I was most excited about was the Atlantic blue, followed by black, and then probably green in third place.
Yeah. I think you also need to mention that when we say it happened quick, it was within a week or week and a half of you putting up that thermometer, right?
The day I put up the thermometer, I saw the ad for this car.
Okay.
The same exact day.
Right. But the money and all the other things that needed to, but all the other stuff that needed to happen was also very quickly after that. Right?
Yeah. Within 48 hours of making my little accountability fundraising chart, I had found the money, I'd found the car, and I had come up with a plan, even of the logistics of how to get there, how to test drive it, how to get it back, all that stuff.
That's exciting.
I find nothing woo woo about that. I just feel like I directed my attention to this mission, and my conscious and unconscious brains worked together to make it happen.
Yeah, I can't explain exactly, how that happens, but I feel like whenever I focused the way you did, things start to fall in place. I don't think it's ever happened that quickly for me as it did for you. Yeah. So I'm super excited to see that happen. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was great.
Next up, my mail order bride. We'll dedicate the efforts to that next.
What kind of thermometer are you going to draw for that one?
It's going to be a much bigger one. Save up a lot more money. Yeah, so my savings goal on the car, and again, the big message, and I was even thinking about this if I post about the car on Instagram, the message is, hold on to your dreams, because if you hold on to them long enough, they will depreciate and go down in value to the level that they become practical.
That's a lot to put on a t-shirt, but maybe we can get that done.
Yeah, in 1995, when this car came out, I believe it was like a $32,000 car.
Wow.
Which even then it was like,
that's a lot.
It's not an Aston Martin though. People were like, I can't believe James Bond's driving a $30,000 car.
Yeah, all right.
And so, which I get, because the Aston Martins, holy cow, they're hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, but yeah, you give it enough time, and they are the kind of car that people are excited to take care of and keep nice. And so there are some good examples of that car out there.
Yeah.
And I was thinking there's really only 2 cars I could get that would be James Bond cars. It was this one, and then in Casino Royale, Daniel Craig goes to the Bahamas, and he rents from a car rental place, gets like a little Ford that he's like a little 4-door Ford that he's driving in before he gets the Aston Martin. I was like, okay, those are the 2 I would be able to afford.
Hey, now you know what you're going to replace the Honda with.
Exactly.
Right? There you go.
I swear I had that thought.
Yeah, that's hysterical. Got it.
I don't think they sell the one that he had in the Bahamas. I think it's a European and a Bahamas car. I don't think you can get it in America.
All right.
Maybe we'll see.
Maybe somebody's got one.
Somebody must have one, right? So, okay, so let's close out. This is our third attempt to kill the Atomic Attraction book.
We just cannot get rid of this thing.
No, we recorded this episode multiple times.
Are we still recording?
We're still recording, yes. Whew. Yeah, just double checking there. So we're going to hit some of the high points in the last few chapters, and then we're going to be done. The first one I want to address is induce scarcity to increase your value. On the surface, that is true. If you are perceived as being scarce, you will seem more valuable to the women that are in your life. What it doesn't say, even though you could read into the subtext of this chapter, and I would say reading into the subtext of this chapter is pretend to be scarce to build your value.
Yeah.
But that is a losing strategy, in my opinion.
Pretending to do anything is not a great strategy. But you know,
right. And I was asking myself today, why? Why is pretending to be fill in the blank a losing strategy? And I equate it to most murderers get caught.
Mm-hmm.
If you commit a murder, the odds are that you're going to get caught. Now, certain economic and demographic and geographic data will contribute to how likely that is, but certainly more than half of murders are solved. The killer is caught. Why is that? Well, one big reason is when Dan Littman decides to go out and kill somebody, he'll have one murder under his belt. The detective whose job it is to catch you, how many murders does he have under his belt?
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought about it that way.
He's much more practiced.
That's why they could never get Dexter.
Well, exactly. He had so many.
Yeah, exactly.
The more you do it, the better.
10,000 hours, right?
Exactly. Right. So a cop is likely to catch you because he's way better investigating murders than you are at committing murders.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. And it's not just, usually it's not one cop. You've
Right.
got a team of people
Right.
who have now, pooled hundreds or thousands of hours of experience, right?
Right, exactly.
And then the people who've come before them, you've got all of that experience that's being handed down in some fashion or whatever, unless,
I love it when you're making my future argument even better.
Yeah.
What you're doing right now.
Right.
Full speed ahead.
With Dexter, so, he was raised by a father who was a cop, so he could share some of the experience of not how to not get caught.
Right.
So, Anyway.
Right. So, and that ties back to your ability to bullshit a woman is not as strong as her ability to detect bullshit in men. So when you decide I'm going to play games with her, I'm going to pretend to be scarce. I'm going to pretend to be unavailable, even though I've got nothing going on. Yeah. All I'm doing is staring at my phone thinking about, is it time to call her yet? Do the rules say I should call her yet? She's going to see through you.
Yeah, that's like a little. Often. That's like the little leaguer trying to play baseball, like in the majors. Right. Really, yeah. Right. If you think about it, because their whole lives they've been dealing with, people, or guys or people bullshitting, and they just
trying to get what they need out of them.
Exactly.
And again, as we talked about before, the stakes of getting it wrong when it comes to mating choice with women are so high. Making a baby with the wrong guy who can't defend you, who's not going to stick around, who's not going to give you resources, that's not going to kill you.
And that's just one of the reasons why they've honed this skill. It's safety, right? It's like,
ultimately, yes.
Like, and I don't remember, we may have talked about it, or I don't remember where I saw that or listened to it, but it was, a guy at the front of the room, basically, it was a room full of people, and it was either a woman or a man who was leading this conference, and they were saying, how many people here have, felt like their lives were in danger in the last year? And it was like all the women's hands went up. Yeah. None of the guys' hands went up. And then they kept reducing the date. It was just like, how many people felt like they were, in the last week, in the last week, in the last day. And there was like, in the parking garage on the way over here, and then like half the women's hands went up, and it just really changed the perspective that even I had no idea, like how like on a daily basis how fearful a woman feels at times, and just for their safety. And so out of pure necessity, you're going to hone these skills where it's gonna be a bullshit detector.
Yes. And so the idea of I'm going to pretend to be whatever this book tells me I should look like.
Or not even just this book, but in general, pretending to be something that you're not.
Right. So the goal is if you want to increase your value by inducing scarcity, then you have to be scarce, and it has to be scarce not because you're essentially not because you're doing stupid stuff, but because you're doing important stuff that people would look at and respect. If you're so busy with your purpose, your mission, whatever you want to call it, your other relationships that you value, then if you're scarce for those reasons, then yes, that will make you seem more attractive than if you're just clingy and always available. But it has to be for legitimate reasons, not because you read in a book that you need to pretend to be that. And
those legitimate reasons are going to absolutely benefit you and pay off, because you will be increasing your experience, your connection with other people, your value, your ability to function and survive and thrive in this world is only enhanced by having these other experiences. I mean, unless you're, out at the strip club or something like that,
right,
or the bars, and you're unavailable because of that.
Correct.
I guess you could go down that road, but we'll look at the cup is half full.
Right, but when it comes to attracting, healthy, desirable women, you've got to be doing interesting, good things that her and her peers and everybody else in your life looks up to and respects, not stuff like that. Right.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm scarce. I'm unavailable because I'm in the drunk tank every weekend. No, that's not what we're talking about. Okay, the next chapter that I want to go over really quickly. You and I have talked a lot about the friend zone, and here's the thing: you can find yourself in a relationship with a woman who is your friend almost by accident. It can happen. It's happened to me. It is a thing that happens. When you adopt becoming her friend as a strategy to becoming her boyfriend, that's when it almost never works. Less than 10% of the time. Far less than 10% of the time.
And I think a lot of us as kids start out that way. As we get older, as boys growing up, I know that was my strategy because it was safer.
Exactly.
It was safer because there's no threat there. There's no risk of rejection.
Right.
You're not putting yourself out there, but it's sneaky because that's not what you really want from that person.
Correct. Yeah.
And then you pretend to like things that she likes that you don't like.
Right. Just to be around her. Yes, absolutely.
To find some way to connect.
Correct. Yes. And it is a losing strategy in almost every case.
Never worked for me.
You're not.
Yeah.
I mean, your honest and direct romantic interest in a woman is like your greatest weapon. And you're taking that off. You're like, I'm going to leave that in the locker.
So ironic. Yeah.
It is. I mean, yeah. I mean, Dr. Robert Glover says, a woman watching a man act with confidence is like a man watching a woman lift her shirt. It has the same romantic sexual effect.
Yeah. That attraction, that level of attraction. And it's so difficult as a man to think in those terms and actually believe it until you've experienced or seen it, enough.
Absolutely.
Because that's just not the way we operate.
Exactly. Yes, but it's absolutely true. And so when you adopt a strategy of, I will get close to her, I'll be her friend, and maybe she'll realize that she loves me. It's such a long-term losing strategy that I don't recommend it. It's in poker terms, you can sit down in Texas Hold'em, you can win a hand with 7-2 offsuit, but the odds that you're going to win a hand that way are so low that if you build a lifelong poker strategy around it, you're going to end up poor.
Right. It's the same thing. Great example. If you're coming in trying to be her friend, you're constantly putting effort into showing what a good friend you are.
Right.
So you are selling.
And I'm not a creep.
Right. You are selling and you're probably doing a great job of selling that. And she probably bought it. And now she bought a friend. And now you're like, well, that's not really what I was selling. What do you mean? She took you for face value. She took you for what you were.
That's a great example. She bought the product you were selling.
Exactly.
And then you get upset about it.
Right. Now you're upset that she bought your product?
She bought your product.
After you put in so much time and effort into that?
That's a great point. Yeah. And so, the product has to be, I'm an exciting romantic guy to be around.
Sell that.
And when you sell that.
Yeah.
And the problem is, or the fear I would say is that is a quick acceptance or rejection. There's no drawing it out until you're comfortable. It's when you show up that way with honesty and directness, then you're prompting her to honestly and directly accept or reject pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And, the double-edged sword with that is, the earlier on in knowing a woman that she says, thanks, but no thanks, I'm not into it, the less it hurts.
Yes.
Where if you spend so much time selling her on how good of a friend you are, and then at some point when you can't take it anymore, and I've been there, you tell her how you really feel about it, then when she's not interested, it is crushing because you've gotten to know her so well and you've spent so much time around her.
So here's the thing. I think if you actually think through the amount of pain in both of those situations, it's not even a comparison. It might be a quick, sharp pain at the beginning if she says no to your romantic gestures or overtures at the beginning. But if you are like this friend and you are, friends with a woman for 6 months and months, and it's a slow burn at that point, because there's going to be times, and it happened to me, where she's talking about some other guy, or she did something or reacted to something another guy did. And now you're like, you got some twinge of jealousy. That doesn't feel good. That hurts a little bit, but you're right. Then you build it up into this huge crescendo of I'm finally going to make this huge, romantic gesture. And then when she's like, no, it's much more painful, I feel,
absolutely,
than if you had put no effort in or very little effort in at the very beginning and it was just like, hey, let's be romantic. And unfortunately, as a kid, I wasn't able to see the forest or the trees and to be able to make those two comparisons and see that I would have saved so much time, energy, and pain by just going in at the beginning and being truthful about my intentions. And then knowing I'd wake up the next day breathing and be able to eat, and eventually I'd get over it, right?
I had no mom, dad, uncle that were able or willing to sit me down and say, listen, if you're interested in a girl, as soon as you decide that you're interested in her, you go up to her and say, "Hi, I'm Charles. You're so cute. I'd love to get to know you better."
Well, guess what? Everybody who had parents in their lives, most of them also did not get that. I am one of them as well.
And that's because that's not how they got into their relationships.
No. And that's also usually that's not, I mean, I guess whatever, whether it's a job of a parent to do that or not, I feel like it's a very crucial life skill that's just not commonly passed down to kids, when this is the way you.
Right. I agree. And I mean, listen, we've talked about
I had a very loving family and they were all very supportive, but
right.
I just didn't get that specific direction, which would have been helpful. The other thing too is I don't think I would have taken that advice either. Even if I had gotten it at that, that would have been too scary for me still. It still would have been too scary for me.
But maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. Okay.
Maybe.
If you're,
I don't think I would have taken it though.
If your dad lived that way, you saw how happy he was living that way.
Okay, that's
because one of the things
I'll agree with you there.
Bring up is, we've talked about, we know some guys that when it comes to initiating interactions with women, they're naturals at it. They do it easy. The rejection doesn't scare them and they're good at it.
Yeah.
What they're not good at is explaining how and why they do it the way that they do it. So to have a dad who is good at it, either because he learned or because he was natural at it and he knows how to explain it to his son, that is absolutely a rare commodity.
And in those cases, I could see that being the way that the child would learn how to do that, just like everything else.
Yeah, you model it. You don't. Yeah, you show don't.
I guess what I'm thinking about is my experience, in childhood, not seeing it modeled in front of me. If my parents actually sat down and verbalized it to me, the inconsistency of me not growing up being that way, I don't think I would ever been able to take that advice and do anything with it, even if I had gotten it.
The next chapter I want to address is She Must Invest in You. And again, this is really the back part, the very back of this book is a summary. We've talked about all these things in a lot of detail already. As guys, when we start dating a new girl who's pretty and interesting and we're attracted to her and she likes spending time with us, we have a tendency to overinvest in that relationship with our time, our money, our presence, our emotions. We just go too deep, too fast. And at some level, that can often scare a girl away, or if not scare her away, she can just be like, okay, this guy's coming on a little strong for how well we know each other.
Yep.
And I would warn you against doing that. If you can help it from, I mean, you certainly can help it. You can certainly control the kind of dates that you plan with her and the kind of gifts that you buy her, meaning, don't be taking her out for super fancy meals just because you're trying to get to know her and impress her. Really don't do anything for the purpose of impressing anyone. I would say do the things that you want to do and that you need to do. But when you are going through the, boy, she'll really like me if I do X, Y, Z, you're already on the road to ruin. Do the things that you're into, go to the places you like going, and maybe even dial that back a little bit. Because look, I like going out for fancy meals, and I will go sit down at a restaurant alone and eat a nice meal sometimes. But if you do that first, second, third date, you don't want to take her to dumps. But there are lots of cheap and fun things you can do on dates that will really make her feel the way that you would want somebody to feel that you're trying to get to know and trying to get close to. Where, taking her for a 5 or 7 course meal at a 5-diamond restaurant, it's like, yeah, that will impress her, but not in a sustainable way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think when, in this case here, she must invest in you.
Right.
What's the point that he's trying to make exactly? Like,
the point is, I mean, what I took away from that is, don't you be the one who takes on the responsibility of, I have to invest all of this fill in the blank into the relationship. It's got to be equal or even more. And other experts would say she needs to be investing more than you in the beginning, because
what does that investment look like when you say investing?
Initiating conversations.
Okay.
Seeing, what your weekend looks like, if you might be available to go out with her. I mean, Corey Wayne in particular has said that if a man and a woman initiate 50% of the conversation each when they're just getting to know each other, that will lead her to look at you more as a friend than as a romantic partner.
That's fair. I mean, that's kind of what we expect from our friends, is like an equal,
right,
50-50 type of work, or close to it type of back and forth,
right, investment.
Yeah.
And he's got a video that I've not yet, I saw the title of it today and added to my queue on YouTube. The title is something like, Why Women Feel Empowered When They Chase Men. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
That's interesting.
Yes. Like Howard. Yes. Because I mean, I think both sides get something out of the experience of the anticipation of, how into me are they? How are they going to react if I send them a message tomorrow morning? Or, when are they going to respond? How are they going to respond? And I think his argument would be that anticipation and those endorphins that you get from that rush, it affects them even more positively than it affects us.
Interesting.
Where if you're constantly the one that's chasing her and doing all the pursuing, you're taking that opportunity away from her. She doesn't get to feel those things.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So you're actually making her feel good by investing a little bit less.
Correct. That's his position. And I think he's right. It just, in my own life and my own experience, that seems to be the case. So,
yeah. Hey.
So I guess the positive message of this chapter is, let her work a bit to be in your life and have access to your calendar. Again, not in a fake way, not in a make-believe kind of way, but be so busy that you're not constantly the one reaching out to her, initiating conversations with her. But when you do hear from her, be, openly enthusiastic. Say, hey, it's great to hear from you. What's your schedule look like this week? Are you free to, get a drink tomorrow night?
Yeah.
And so, reward, her investing in you by reaching out to you, by initiating communication, by being enthusiastic and asking her out on a date with a specific time, place, and time.
Yeah, you don't want to be
place and
you can't be an asshole. Why would she reach out to you ever again after that,
exactly.
right? Like you're basically telling her you're not interested at that point.
Right. So. But don't be the one who's constantly chasing her around trying to get her to commit to dates. But when she does reach out to you, tell her you're glad to hear from her and say, hey, how about we get together at this time and place?
That makes sense.
All right. So let's see. The next chapter after that one, dealing with conflict. Again, I've been quoting from Corey Wayne because I've been reading his book and watching his videos a lot lately. One of the things he says is, no man that understands women spends his time arguing with women. And I would really agree with that. And I would say that, I've had conflict-free relationships and I've had conflict-laden relationships. And the conflict-free ones, they weren't conflict-free for the right reason. It was because, I was kind of, I don't want to say bully because that feels too strong, but okay, maybe bully. Like I didn't invite a lot of dialogue about things that either didn't interest me or that I didn't like. And so kind of got a little stonewally, and that would shut down argument, that would shut down debate. And so I felt like, things are good. We're not fighting, but the resentment was still growing. So that's not what I'm talking about when I say that I believe you can have a relatively conflict-free relationship with somebody. But, that's more about when someone comes to you when your partner comes to you with a problem, don't deny their experience, don't deny their feelings, just get curious and act as if, because it's true, you want to understand exactly where they're coming from. Yeah. Because if you understand exactly where they're coming from, you can find yourself in the position less where you're having the same conversation about the same problem over and over and over again. But to do that, you have to open up and be like, okay, I go ahead and anything you need to criticize about the way I handled this or the way I made you feel or whatever, give it to me. I can take it. Tell me exactly how it made you feel when I said fill in the blank. And then if you can really sit there and be okay hearing that, then you have a chance of being able to prevent it from happening again in the future.
Yeah. I think the key is really checking your ego at the door and not needing to be right or wrong or assign blame, but really try to be an investigator and try to find the solution, and just get more information and be okay that if when you're getting that information, there's going to be some criticisms of things that you've done or whatever that is, by being able to I don't want to say take that, but sit there, be uncomfortable and have all of those, feelings that could come up, that you're going to get to a solution a lot more quickly than you would any other way. And I know that firsthand. Yes. Absolutely. From, changing my mindset from I need to be right and, letting my ego run the show versus I need to figure out what's going on here and let's come up with a solution together.
Right. And one of the things I mentioned
that also de-escalates
sure.
the other side of the argument a lot more quickly than
one of the things I mentioned last time,
trying to tell them someone's wrong,
that we were attempting to do this chapter, was the idea that when you jump to a solution as soon as she comes to you with the problem.
Oh, I remember that. Yes.
You are fixing what you think the problem is. And you may have a great solution to what you think the problem is, but only by drilling down and asking over and over again in different ways, how did that make you feel? Okay. And then how did that make you feel? And then when I did that in response, how did that make you feel? Only by drilling down can the two of you get to the root problem and not just because immediately, yes, as soon as somebody comes to you with a problem as a technical person, as an engineer, as a man, you will say, okay, that's the problem. Then I got to fix for the problem. But it's not always the problem that you think is the problem.
Right. And the other piece of that is the physical and / mental aspect of it, which I was talking to somebody who did like customer service. And a lot of times what she would do is she would, when she would talk to somebody who's really upset about something, she would start asking them about other things to get them talking and actually it distracted them a little bit, but also exerts and gets rid of some of that extra energy. So if the emotions are running really hot, I think just the action of thinking about things and explaining them and, I think all of that, it takes some energy.
Right.
I think that actually the process of talking about those things as you're digging down and asking, well, how did that make you feel? And what did you think about this when we did that?
Right.
And allowing them to just have that time and space to express themselves. I know whenever I've been in an argument and with somebody and they don't allow me to speak, it builds up.
Yes.
And that can happen if you already have that solution assumed.
Correct.
And you come in and you just want to implement it or sell it to them right away without giving them the chance, even if it turns out to be correct. I've just realized through our conversation, it's probably better just give them the time and space to express themselves and not go right for the solution right away.
Right. And even
unless they ask you for it, but
right. And even then, I would say before you get into offering a solution mode at all, have the other conversation first, and then at the end say, okay, so we've been talking about this and it could be 3 minutes, or we've been talking about this for 30 minutes. I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on what the problem is. And so I'm going to tell you in my own words what I think the problem is. And then once we both agree that we both understand what the problem is, then we can talk about how we've solved this.
That's a great point you make, because a lot of times, our definition of what we think the problem is totally off.
Yeah, that's why
you got to get to some sort of a level. That's the first level of agreement is, oh, hey, are you even talking about the same thing here?
I'm such a huge fan of this practice I learned about from guys like Sam Harris, Jordan Peterson, the Weinstein brothers, of steel manning, where when you're having an argument with somebody, you both agree, okay, before you hear my position, I'm going to tell you what I think your position is. And I have to keep editing myself until you say, yes, Charles, you get it. You know exactly where I'm coming from. That is exactly what my position is. Yeah. And then once we can both get to that point where I'm able to state your position in a way that you find adequate, and you're able to state my position in a way that I find adequate, then we can try to address solving a problem. But man, in relationships, I have done that maybe 0 times.
Yeah, I've done it less than 0 times.
You've done a negative number of times?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, like the square root of -1 times?
Exactly.
Yeah, me too. Imagine.
Or at least it's felt that way anyway.
No, I mean, look, it's hard to do that. And you mentioned ego, and I don't know that, I mean, yes, I'm sun level. When I'm in the middle of being defensive and I'm in the middle of trying to talk somebody out of their feelings or solve their problem prematurely, I'm sure to them it looks like it's a matter of Charles's ego, narcissism, whatever, but it's really fear. I mean, at the root of it is fear. It's fear of losing the connection. If you figure out that I don't get what I think I get, or I don't get what is important for me to have you think that I get, then I get scared. I think the connection's going to go away because I'm not who I said I was, and you're going to figure it out, and then you're going to decide I'm not on board with this anymore.
Yeah. I think for me, it's a little bit more about like, well, that's just not fair. Like, I shouldn't be told that I was wrong when I know I was right about this. And that's where my ego goes.
But why are you concerned with things being fair, Dan? What's the root of that? Like, why does
that's a good question.
Why does it matter
think about that
you have to be treated fairly? Because what happens? What's the worst case scenario if you're treated unfairly? What could happen?
I guess
convicted of a crime you didn't commit, and then you have to suffer the consequences from it.
And then I join the A team. No, so for me, I think it's really more just not being treated like somebody taking advantage of me. When I'm not feel like I'm being treated fairly, I guess, and that more bad things could potentially happen,
right?
And that this person
is
not, and this is not a good person for me to be around,
right?
Like, that's where my mind goes.
Yeah, I would say, I think we're coming from the same place and just talking.
So, which is a kind of a fear thing.
You won't have access to the resources that you need to survive.
Yeah, ultimately, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to, and it's which scarcity is the root of that. It's like, there's not enough of the thing I need, whether that's somebody else's love or their time or the connection you feel. There's not enough to go around, so I have to defend this piece of it, because if I lose that, I might lose more, and then I won't have enough to get by.
Yeah,
and I would say that fear is really the root of anger. It's the root of ego. It's the root of, oh no, what if I can't meet my needs?
There might be actually, to bring back one of the other chapters here, a little bit of loss aversion here too, because I've already invested time, energy, and resources into this relationship, into this person.
The opportunity cost.
And now it's not a good investment because I'm seeing this behavior, or this person is telling me that I did all these things wrong when I believe I did them right. And now, the time and effort, energy I put into this other person, like, I was wrong. I should have done that.
Oops. Yeah. And now,
it's like,
now this time is just gone. I can't get it back.
Right.
The attention's gone. I can't get it back. Like, all these valuable things that I have a finite amount of are gone.
But if I can prove that I'm right and they admit it, then for some reason, in some weird way,
dots, but they're not actually connected.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk real briefly about jealousy. I would say if your partner is spending a lot of time being jealous, it's because she doesn't feel safe. And if you spend a lot of time being jealous, it's because you don't feel like you're enough.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the fix for that is do the things that allow a woman to feel safe, which is counterintuitively, one might say, build your own value mentally, your mental health, your physical health, your financial health. Like, make yourself the best man you can be, and the safer she will feel being around you.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
and I mean, I think it's not just safe. I think also it's connection. Like, I feel a lot of times people, both men and women, will do things to make the other person feel jealous because they're not feeling like they're feeling connected to them or loved.
correct.
So it's like, hey, wake up. And it may not be to actually go and sleep with somebody else, but just a wake up call going, hey, look at me. I need some sort of attention here, or we need to address the elephant in the room that's not being addressed.
Correct. You're not giving me the physical touch, the words of affirmation, the fill in the blank that I need. You're not giving me those things.
I think safety. But I'm going to say I think it's more about feeling connected and loved by the other person. That's what I think leads to a lot of jealousy.
Okay, fair enough.
Or causing people to act to make the other person feel jealous, right?
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that in a minute on the chapter on restoring attraction when it's gone or dying. But yeah, and I would say if you're feeling jealous of her, again, scarcity, lack of abundance, fear that you're not enough and that she's going to figure it out and find somebody who's more than you in some way, that is usually where it comes from. If your attitude is, look, I'm a pretty good guy. I put a lot of effort in to be the man that I want to be, who I respect and who I appreciate spending time with. And if she decides that I'm not the guy for her, that will hurt, but that's okay. I'll find somebody else, or I'll be okay by myself for a while.
So you're saying if you start to feel jealous, then you really need to look in the mirror and see what kind of life what kind of life you're leading, and would you date yourself? Would you, based on the person that you are being, would you be attracted enough to yourself? Or could you like objectively look around and go, yeah, maybe I'm not being the man I need to be in order to attract her enough?
Yes, I think that's exactly right. And I would say, when I'm doing the things I need to do to take care of myself, my journaling, my meditating, my going for walks, my going to the gym, my eating right, when I do the things that I know I need to do to feel the best about myself, I am not afraid of losing a bake-off to some other guy for either the girl I have or the girl I want.
And it's because, and even if you did lose,
right,
I'm not
afraid of it. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Regardless of the outcome, I'm not afraid of what's going to happen.
Right, because you found a way to make yourself happy.
Right.
And by doing all of those things. And so your happiness is not dependent on what's happening outside of your world.
Correct. And I'm in control of, and that's why it's so valuable to keep up those habits when you're with someone, but also so difficult to keep up those habits when you're with someone. Because when you're excited to be with someone, it's like, man, it'd be a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Just hanging out with you than it would be to wake up at 4:45 and go work out.
And the thing is, if you don't sell yourself on doing those things and how important it is, there's no way you're going to be able to sell it to a woman who's also just as excited to be with you and would rather spend time with you than, maybe keep up some of those other things in her life.
Right.
And so sometimes you might need to be able to sell that to your partner and go, look, it's important for both of us to maintain our friendships and our connections and some of our hobbies by ourselves. And then, you also have opportunities to start new hobbies together and things like that. But again, it's not something I was ever really good at doing. I definitely didn't prioritize it. And I've paid the consequences for it.
Yeah, same. I mean, you should, if you can get yourself to a point where you're willing to say to your girlfriend who loves spending time with you, wants to be around you, like, look, I understand you would rather that we're hanging out, but I'm going out to do my 5 miles right now. And you can spend that time doing something that's important to you, or you can spend that time being sad that I'm not sitting here on the couch with you. But either way, I'm going to do it. And I would encourage you to do something in that time that you find value in.
Yeah.
And then it's up to her to do that or not do that. And it's up to you you can just take care of yourself, and you can just do what's important to you. And the people around you are much more likely to take care of themselves if you're doing what you need to do to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Lead by example as well.
Right. Yeah. Like we were just talking about, when it comes to behavior with children, you can tell them what to do, or you can show them what to do.
Yeah.
And modeling, there's no substitute for modeling healthy behavior. Telling them, hey, I know, I'm sitting on the couch and smoking and eating potato chips, but you should be more healthy.
Yeah.
Okay, Dad, whatever.
Yeah.
They're going to do what you show them, not what you tell them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's a section of restore dying attraction, which is basically what not to do to restore dying attraction. And I want to go through this list, this ridiculous friggin' list with you, so that you can join me in rolling your eyes and saying why these are bad ideas.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So some of the things you can do according to this author to rebuild attraction. Tell her you miss being single and you're not sure if you want to be in a relationship. This sudden desire for freedom will trigger her fear of lost receptors, bringing her attention squarely back onto you. Does that sound like a good idea?
Yeah. Or she could be like, yeah, I've been feeling the same way. I want to be single too. And then that's the end of the relationship. Are you ready for that?
Yeah. Never bluff a consequence that you're not willing to accept or a boundary that you're willing to maintain.
Again, you're starting to play games already.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. If you miss being single and you're not sure if you want to be in a relationship,
then go be single.
Yeah. I mean, then break up with her and go do that.
Yeah.
But don't on this author.
These are like all empty threats. It's like a list of empty threats here.
Yes,
right.
Exactly. Openly and without shame, look at other women in public and talk about how attractive they are.
Listen, that didn't work for me even when it wasn't intentional.
Right.
It was an accident, like a waitress walking by. It was a problem all of a sudden. And I was just like, so many years ago.
You full on gotten broken up over it, right?
Yes, you did. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So imagine.
She made all these assumptions about, here's the thing is, on her part, she made all these assumptions about how I was feeling about things and that I didn't want to be with her. And that wasn't the case at all. She didn't even want to hear the fact that, or believe that, yeah, somebody walked my peripheral vision. I looked, I didn't gawk. It was like literally turned my head. And yeah.
Yeah. So add on top of that, though, another layer of you playing games and making it up and doing it on purpose.
Oh, sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It's even more attractive and distasteful so it's ridiculous. Ignore her phone calls and text messages for days on end, forcing her to come to you in a sweat-induced panic as she tries to find out what's going on. Again, guys, look, most of the time when a woman backs away because she's losing attraction, she's losing interest, you've stopped listening to her, she stopped feeling seen, she stopped feeling heard. There is a delicate way that you need to introduce space to this, and it needs to be a little more space than what she's asking for. Where if you start engaging in this psychopathic dark triad behavior, and you're doing it in a way because you're trying to induce a very specific outcome, it is not. Listen, man, there may be guys out there that can pull this off and make it work, but they're really bad guys who have had horrible childhoods and had to build a life manipulating people. Yeah, and they're not with healthy women.
Yeah, that's about to say it's not going to be a healthy relationship.
No, absolutely not.
The woman who sticks around for this,
correct. Post pictures of yourself on social media with other women around you. Again, it's guys, just have a life where you're socializing and being around other people, men, women, old people, kids. You're careful on the kids, but have a life where you're an open social person.
Yeah.
And so posting pictures with your friends, associates, strangers is not an unusual thing, but oh no, I think she's losing attraction for me. Let me just start doing all these behaviors I've never done before and roll the dice and hope it works out for me is insane.
Yeah. And she'll totally see through that anyway. I mean, we were talking about,
her
little
reaction-
little league versus the majors.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've never been social before and you don't have a lot of women in your life that are your friends, and all of a sudden you start posting pictures with like girls out at bars, like she's gonna. It's just not consistently who you are. It's gonna be like, well, I don't want this person anyway.
Exactly. Her attraction.
Right?
Her
that's just
attraction
gonna drive her in the other
is
direction.
dying because your value has gone down, and so your romantic value to her has gone down, and so participating in this play acting is going to make that go down even further, or starting to just because when you start behaving in ways you've never behaved before, that does not speak to a strong masculine core. That is, I'm shaken up emotionally and I'm going to start acting out.
Yeah.
So when you start behaving in dramatically different ways than you've behaved before in any way, it's going to be like, okay, this guy is shaken. My behavior has shaken him and he is spiraling out of control and doesn't know what to do. And that is gross and unattractive.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about more ways you can do this. Text and call other women in front of her.
Oh, that's great.
Start exercising if you don't already. Buy new clothes, wear nice fragrances. She'll notice these subtle changes and start to wonder whether or not you're seeing other women. Listen, I'm never going to tell you not to ramp up your physical fitness and your self-improvement. But again, the easiest way to do this that some guys will fall into is, oh, I'll pretend that I'm trying to get back into shape. I'll go out and buy some new clothes. And look, it's got to be deep and it's got to be authentic. Otherwise, it's going to be sniffed out as, okay, he's trying to make me notice him, or he's trying to make me wonder who he's getting dressed up for.
I mean, going to the gym to make somebody jealous is hysterical to me. It just really is. It's just,
Yeah.
Or pretending to go to the gym.
Right. Yeah. I'll drive to the gym and sit in my car for an hour and then come home so that she thinks that it's like, how many weeks can you keep that up? And
it's funny because maybe there are people doing this because every time
I bet there are.
I'm coming out of the parking lot. I'm coming out of the gym in the parking lot. There's a lot of people just sitting in their cars, and like they were in their car before I went into the gym. They've been sitting there the whole time.
Who knows?
Like, what's going on there?
I don't know. Yeah, and
it's happened more than like a couple of times. So
every bad idea we can think about, somebody's doing it and thinking it's a good idea.
Are they trying to lie to like personal trainer or something like that? Or is that what's going on?
Maybe find my iPhone is on with their partner, and so
holy cow!
Yeah, and so they said they were going.
I never
the
thought
gym,
about
and
that.
they're sitting in the gym talking to the person that they're cheating with, or something. I don't know.
It's getting juicy. We should do some sort of investigation and go through the gym parking lots and just.
I don't care.
Oh my god, how hysterical to get that on
knock. What are you doing? What are you doing here right now?
Charles from Dateline.
Yeah, I don't know what they're up to, but there's I'm sure there's a reason.
Interesting thoughts.
Go on dates with other women. If she finds out, tell her you thought she wouldn't mind given her current behavior.
Wow. I would love to hear the response to that when you finish the sentence with given your current behavior.
Yeah, I expected you wouldn't mind if I went on dates. Like, we haven't broken up. We haven't talked about that. What? It's like, yeah, all these are strategies for avoiding the discussion that you're scared to have. Right? I mean,
for sure.
Hey, I feel like things between us have kind of fallen off and you're not as into me as you used to be. And so I don't want to break up, but I do want to make a shot at fixing this. So I'm going to back off a little bit and I'm going to spend a little bit more time on the other things that are important to me. And if you find that I'm not around enough for you, then we can have a conversation about what it is we both want on this relationship.
Sounds like a good start.
But it's so scary to start that conversation that some of these, when you're in the middle of it, some of these things seem like a good idea.
These other things sound a lot more work too, to kind of fake all this stuff versus you just, spending a little bit more time by yourself.
Well, I mean,
things,
how much work they are is relative to what is it that scares you the most. And sometimes having an honest, vulnerable conversation about how you're feeling and how
some work. Okay,
how your needs aren't getting met are scary. That's scarier than anything else to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Including me at sometimes in my life.
Yeah.
Like being able to sit down and say,
well, in this case, it's like, it's not your needs that aren't getting met.
It is.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because she's not acting like she's attracted to you.
All right. I was thinking from her perspective, she's not getting something she wants because she's lost attraction for you.
That's
what I was thinking. But you're right.
You're right. Rare that
ultimately,
it's not
you're
both,
right.
You know?
Ultimately,
The temperature on a relationship doesn't take a nosedive unless both people aren't getting what they need out of the relationship.
Yeah. I mean, I think if one person isn't getting what they need out of the relationship, that's...
Well, let's talk that out. Give me an example. Like, what do you think? And I think I'll be able to convince you that there's a second need that's not being met.
I think ultimately ends with the second need not getting met. I think it can start out with one person's needs not getting met. And I'm not blaming, and I'm not saying it's one person's...
In a hypothetical example, man or woman, whose needs are not getting met first?
Oh,
in whatever example you'd like to use.
Okay, so the woman's needs aren't getting met, let's say, because the guy isn't around as much as she wants him to be for whatever reason. So she wants to bring him to all of her events and stuff like that, and he's got his own stuff going on, and he's just not as available to her as she wants him to be. So her expectations aren't being met, her needs aren't being met. She needs somebody who's more available, or vice versa. Or, maybe he's got kids from another marriage and he's got to take care of those kids and he's got to spend a lot more time with the kids than he has available to go on dates with her, so she's not getting those needs met. And so I think, and again, it might not be a good fit with these two people's life situations,
right?
So I think that, and maybe he's okay with that. So I think it could just be one person's needs. Ultimately, though,
it will result in both people.
It will result in both people because she's either not going to be happy about it, she's going to react in a way, or she'll end things, and then he doesn't have them.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. It could start with one person not getting what they need, and then if not addressed,
correct,
then it's going to be two people.
I think is very common for it to not be addressed,
right,
or at least not addressed in the right way.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. The hard conversation doesn't happen. It's the, there's all these other problems that creep up that are symptoms, and you'll have the conversation how to deal with those little symptoms as they come up.
Yeah.
But the root of, I'm not feeling what I need to feel here, it's hard to have that conversation.
Yeah. And I think, because a lot of us aren't great at being comfortable bringing up things when they're upsetting, and I was one of those people. Yeah. I know I've been in relationships in the past where somebody's needs weren't getting met, and the other person, instead of addressing it, would do something almost along the line, not quite as bad as what he's suggesting here, and then the other person would get more upset. And it just kind of snowballed one on top of the other, like, well, you're not doing this, and so I'm not going to do that. But it never comes and it's never addressed in a conversation. And then emotions are running high, and then it just snowballs out of something that was probably really minor at the beginning. And because neither person wanted to address it, it just gets and it blows up into something that didn't need to get there.
Yeah, I agree with you because I've lived it. I've seen it in my friends. I've seen it in my own relationships. That's exactly what happens. Like something that you or her don't understand is wrong, and you don't know how to unpack it and dig into it together. So you just don't even try. And then, eventually you can distract yourself with other fights and other issues and other.
And I know sometimes it comes across, and it has for me, where if I were to say this, it's going to look like I'm overly needy, and so I don't really want to say something, or I'm asking for too much. Maybe like there's a part of you that might where it kind of play and that might also slow you down from having that type of conversation.
Yeah, where I honestly do believe that the least needy thing you can do is be honest. The neediness comes when you start engaging in behavior that is a result of your fear of being honest. And then you start doing all kinds of needy things to cover your fear and not look afraid. I know it's
how much time and energy do we put into that?
So much.
That horse shit.
It's so much.
Terrible.
And so much and so often, even though we know how it shakes out, we know what we get. And yet, in my own case, I still can't stop myself from having those impulses.
Yeah. Oh.
Because it's too hard to be completely honest of, hey, and that the love languages book is so good because it lets you just chop things up into exactly, hey, I've got this need, and for whatever legitimate purpose or reason or whatever, you're not in a place where you feel like you can meet that need, and so it's just not getting met, and I'm not doing good right now. As a result of me not getting the words of affirmation or physical touch that I need from you, I'm not doing great, and I'm not going to be my best partner. I'm not going to be my best employee. I'm not going to be my best friend. I'm not going to be, all the roles that I have are being impacted by the fact that we're not in a place where we're meeting each other's needs, and I don't know what to do about it. It sucks.
Yeah.
That's hard to.
It's hard, but
to say that to your favorite person, that's impossible. Well, it's not impossible. It feels that way in the moment.
I think if you can sprinkle a little bit of it's not your fault that this is happening.
Yeah.
Which is what I liked about the Love Languages book, because it's just the person is coming with a specific key, and it's not going to fit into your lock because that's the key that they built. So, exactly. The way they show love is gifts maybe. And then my lock says, no, I need words of affirmation, and it doesn't fit. And so you're just coming, and it's just like a lack of awareness at that point. Right. And again, I question if people can actually change their love language, especially as an adult, because you kind of are built and your identity is built that way. I think you can make efforts in different love languages. But then, is that a great connection? Do you have that natural, great connection? Again, I don't know.
Yeah, we've talked about that. And my position on that is, I am never going to stop expressing love in the love language that I have been built to give, but I can add some additional tools, other languages on top of that. And so if I'm a gift giver, I'm always going to be a gift giver. Mm-hmm. But if I know that your receiving language is not gifts, then I'm going to learn how, and I'm going to put in systems and processes and reminders to say, okay, here's how I need to give to you in words of affirmation or acts of service or quality time.
So have you done that? I'm curious. And have you actually done that in other relationships?
No, of course not.
Okay. I was just curious because
it sounds like a lot of work.
Right. And the whole thing, right. And it's because it's not natural. That's what I'm concerned about, is because it's not your default. It seems like a lot of work to me. And then to me, does that take away from the connection, that genuine natural connection you can have with somebody? I don't know.
It's not natural for me to only eat 1,400 calories a day, but if my why is strong enough, I do it.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
And I don't do it because I just woke up one day and decided, okay, for a few more weeks, I need to do this so that I can lose the weight that I want to lose. It's, okay, what can I do to dummy proof this and make my life easier by complying than it is by non-compliance?
Right. And what I'm trying to figure out is how to optimize relationships, right? So if are we better off just cutting and running if love languages don't line up, because it's going to be so much easier and more natural and feel so much better for both people when they do?
Good question.
Versus,
I don't know.
Trying to banging that square peg to that round hole because your why is so damn strong. And I think in some cases, absolutely.
But I don't think you would apply that to almost any other positive habit that somebody's trying to make. Like, what's unique about love language that you would say that's the one where cutting and running might be the solution? Like
that's right. I'm not totally sold on that idea. I think there's obviously so many other factors and variables that go into that as well.
Yeah, because I believe, attachment style is just, if not more, deeply ingrained than love language. And, we've got to believe that people can move from insecure attachment styles of, avoidant and anxious to secure. Like there are ways you can move even as an adult by doing some real tough stuff. You can make it happen. People, what one man can do, another man can do. And so it is possible. It's just,
sure.
Is it worth it?
Right.
I would argue that it is.
Is the juice worth the squeeze?
Right.
That's what I'm wondering.
And maybe in the relationship you're currently in, it's not. But maybe in another relationship it would be. I don't know.
Fair.
Probably. I don't know. Okay. The last. Okay. 2 more. Tell her you're going to have sex with other women and that she doesn't need to bother you with her lack of sex and crappy attitude.
Yeah.
If you're in a monogamous committed relationship with her and you just one day decide because you're not happy with how she's treating you, I'm going to have sex with other women. Just break up with her, you coward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, it makes so angry. Lightly spray yourself with a woman's fragrance when she asks why. Tell her you were just sampling some, which technically is true. But again, the spirit of what you're doing is to lie to her, even though the words that you give her are not a lie.
I mean, finish that sentence. Why were you sampling women's perfumes?
You're sampling fragrances. It's no lie you were, but she won't believe it for a second.
Why? Again, that would be my first question as the woman.
No, let's pretend like she doesn't ask you that.
I mean,
why were you sampling them? Yeah, because then you're in a position where you either have to tell her the lame ass truth or you have to lie to her.
Right. I was buying them
I read
for you.
I read this book, and it says that the way to straighten out your crappy attitude is to.
I think there's not going to be a follow-up question when you say something like that. Is ridiculous.
Jinx, give me a Coke. Okay.
You know, growing up, I always heard Jinx, but never the owe me a Coke until I got older.
Same. I only heard Jinx when I was younger. Yeah, that's new.
You know, notice it's never I owe you a Pepsi.
Because Pepsi's terrible.
No kidding.
Okay, you know what? That's enough. We can stop there. Our next book is going to be Self-Care for Men.
Sponsored by Pepsi.
Ugh, I would not take they could offer me $1 billion and I wouldn't take it.
I do like their Diet Dr. Pepper product.
I've never developed a taste for Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
Never liked it. My ex-wife loved Dr. Pepper. I could never do it.
Yeah.
It's prune juice. I mean, it's carbonated prune juice. That's the
I'll have to taste that again. And
that's the root of the flavor profile, I'm pretty sure.
Put prunes in the front of my brain and see if I can match that up with the taste of Diet Dr. Pepper.
I've never had a glass of prune juice. I may have sipped it once in my life, but I've never had it like a glass of prune juice.
Snob.
It's not because I'm too good for it. It's because I don't think I like this.
Too good for certain fruit.
Too good for a lot of things, but clearly. I never had the idea that it was prune juice. There was a funny meme that I shared on my story right now, which actually people might hear this within 24 hours if I am really diligent about editing it. So it might still be on there, but you'll watch it. You'll think it's funny. It's basically a guy saying he has some narcissistic tendencies and it's hard to let new people into his life as a result. And he talks about going on a date and going home to his roommate like, are you going to see her again? He's like, no, probably not. Why? You didn't have fun? He's like, yeah, I had fun. I had fun because I was there.
Oh my God. That's hysterical.
You know, I was out there killing it. I was out there having a blast. But if I disappeared, that whole date would have fallen apart.
Oh, that's hysterical.
So I don't need to spend $90 to watch myself be right. I was like, finally, I immediately followed this guy. I was like, okay, I will follow his career with great interest, as the Emperor said to Anakin Skywalker.
So do we want to talk about the next book?
We're doing Self-Care for Men, and you've read a little bit of it already.
Yeah.
I've just read the section titles, and that was enough to convince me to buy it. So we feel like it will be a little lighter fare. We'll get through it quicker, and we probably won't be crapping on the author for the whole second half of this book like we did with this one.
No, I like it because it's a lot of real simple, straightforward how-tos for self-care, and he does provide quite a few different examples and ways you can go about it, so you can start real tiny and see some benefits right away from it. So this is and he covers everything from like meditation, journaling to, shaving and washing and all those other.
Yeah, and I am committed to trying all of the things in this book. Even if there are some woo-woo things that I think are dumb. If he wants me to put crystals in my underpants, then I'll try it, and I will shit all over it, but only after I've tried it.
I think I'm going to do some acupuncture, actually.
I would try that too.
He mentioned that in there, and I've got some. My arms tend to fall asleep if I keep them above my head a little bit too long, like when I'm sleeping and stuff. I wake up, they fall asleep.
Interesting.
Shouldn't happen. So I'm going to hopefully see what they can do for that.
Yeah, I've noticed I've got a little bit of lack of sensation on the back of some of my shoulders. Where, like I watch videos, some of the ASMR videos I watch where people will they'll have either something that's sharp or something that's dull, and then they'll rub it on you, and either with your eyes closed or it's on your back, you have to say that's sharp, that's dull, that's sharp, that's dull.
Oh.
And it kind of gives your doctor an idea for how well your sense of feeling is in different parts of your body. And when I saw that, I was like, I'll bet I wouldn't be able. There's some parts of my shoulders that I don't think I could tell the difference between something that's sharp and something that's dull.
I've never seen that on a body. Like, so I get it done as a type 1 diabetic. They're always concerned about my feet and blood circulation.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, but they just do like a tiny little like needle on
Like
the
a
bottom of,
pinprick,
or on the bottom of my foot, just so I can feel that. I've never had it done on any of the body parts. So
Yeah, I've seen where
shoulders. I don't know if I'd be able to feel much at all.
they'll have like, and this could all be fake because I watch these ASMR like medical exams that are all done by actors because it's just relaxing. But like, yeah, they'll take like a paintbrush or this little metal tool with like a wheel on it, and the wheel has like little sharp edges.
Okay.
And they will like roll that on you, or they'll brush you with the paintbrush. And the goal is to tell, sharp or dull, sharp or dull. And I guess
maybe we need to do that here on the podcast.
There's got to be
get you on video and get a little pizza cutter.
Yeah, exactly. It's got to be based in some reality, or I don't think they'd be doing it. But
Right.
I don't know for sure.
Interesting.
So we'll. But yeah, I will get into this book.
Self-care for men.
I will not. Yeah, by the guy's last name is Dunce or something like. I don't know. We'll give you a link to it.
Dunce not know.
We'll we're gonna do it. And again, I will not crap on anything in this book that I am not willing to try.
All right, you guys, you heard that here. You heard it. He's not allowed to crap on anything.
If I crap on it, it'll be because I tried it and I thought it was dumb, or I will say I did not try this.
Okay. All right.
So there we go.
To it.
I commit to 100% honesty with this book, even if it has me trying stuff that I feel weird about. So there we go.
All right, sir.
All right, Dan, I appreciate you hanging through. I know you're not feeling well. Dan's possibly on his way to being sick, but he decided to do this anyway because of some technical issues we had with our last recording of this podcast. And I am going to, before I leave you to your illness, I'm going to upload it and I'm going to try to edit it tonight or first thing tomorrow morning and get it out there because, today's Monday. We normally would release a podcast today. I put out one of our greatest hits, according to just me. No, it had a good number of downloads, so maybe people liked it. I don't know. And
cool.
And so we'll try to push this one out sometime tomorrow for sure.
Thanks for handling all those technical issues, man.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Have a great birthday, buddy.
Thank you. It's been a good one. I've had fun today, and I look forward to driving around in my fancy new car. Well, that's new to me.
Awesome.
See you later, Dan.
Have a good one.
Bye.